Hi, I'm Diane Danielson, the COO of SVN International Corp, and I want to welcome you to another edition of SVN Outreach. SVN International Corp is a commercial real estate franchisor. We have 200 offices and about 1,600 advisors and managing directors, and each month we like to bring a new episode of SVN Outreach, which is our new webinar series where we talk to people doing exciting and different things around the commercial real estate industry that not everybody might know about. And we're really excited about this program because we're learning so many new things about commercial real estate and what's going on. And it's an industry that's in a real transition, and we want to bring more people and more ideas into this industry because I love commercial real estate because you make an impact on it that lasts for generations. So we want to get more people doing bigger things and better things for the communities that we live in, because we have to live here for a few more years. So we want to make sure it's great. And so today I am very thrilled to have a new friend with me, Steve Weikal, who is from the MIT Center for Real Estate. And a lot of people don't realize that MIT has a Center for Real Estate, and they have a couple exciting programs, and he's going to tell us about that and also about some of the exciting projects that his current students and former students have been doing. And before I turn over to Steve, I just want to say, Steve, I do have my bling from MIT Center for Real Estate, a very nicely engineered water bottle, of course, because it's got a non-spill stop thing at the top. And so I will be putting that prop right here so we could do that. But I want to turn it over to Steve to tell us a little bit about what his role is at the MIT Center for Real Estate and what MIT sees as their role in commercial real estate.
Yeah, hi, Diane. Thanks so much for having me today. And we were thrilled to have you speak and meet the students and speak here at the center a few weeks ago. As you mentioned, the MIT Center for Real Estate is a little bit of a best-kept secret, but we've been around since the mid-1980s. And I sometimes like to think that we're still in startup mode, which is very appropriate at MIT. We're in startup mode every day, but the center has a pretty rich history. It was founded by some luminaries in the Boston real estate world. Hank Spalding was the primary founder. Spalding and Sly later became JLL here in Boston, but Hank, as you know, had a long time history here in Boston, along with Don Shafaro and the guys from AEW. And so there are really some terrific names in the industry back in the 80s, felt that the center, that the industry needed two things: research and also education, because the industry was getting much more sophisticated around then. And so they founded the Center for Real Estate, which has now been around. This is our 34th graduating class, and the students come from all over the world. We have about 40% of the students incoming this year from outside the U.S. So we really have this great blend of people that come from the industry, and they come here to the center for a year so that they can better fine-tune their skills. And some of them are here to pivot as well into other areas of the industry. And then we also do a bunch of research, which we can talk about as well.
Right. So now, what is your typical student, and what is the program? Is it a master's? Is it a certification? Or what sort of program it is? And what are the qualifications for a student to apply?
That's a good question. It's a master's in real estate development. So it was the first one-year program in the country, and it's still one of the few programs where you can come get a master's for a year. The idea was to be one and done. These guys who were the founders recognized that we didn't want to be out of the loop too long, so it was a one-year program. And so students can now stay on an extra term. They can do an internship during the summer and write their thesis in the fall. But it's a real estate development program. There are other great programs out there. Wharton's program is great, tends to be finance focused. But this is really about people who want to be involved in the development process. Now, that could be all areas of the development process. So our students go back to development. They go back to brokerage. They go back to the capital side. We have some recovering lawyers who go back to law, but I happen to be one of them. But so they come from a variety of areas, and they go back to a variety of areas. And the students need to have, we say 3 to 5 years experience, but they generally have 5 to 7 years of experience or more.
Okay. Well, I think it's interesting with real estate development because that's kind of the cornerstone. I mean, if you want to build a better widget or you want to build a market for a widget, you need to know how to build the widget. So I think that's kind of the whole idea of learning how a building is built. You can translate that into so many different areas.
The great thing about this program, and I happen to be an alum, so I've sort of drunk the Kool-Aid, but But I also have a planning degree. This program is within the School of Architecture and Planning. That's a little different than many of the other great programs but also they tend to be in the business schools. So what we get, I like to think we get more of a hybrid approach to real estate. It's not just about the building. It's not just about the building as an asset. It's really about the context of the building in the broader city and urban fabric. So when we're looking at these trends that are going on with reurbanization of existing cities, but also the sort of, as ULI calls it, the surbanization, the urbanization of the suburbs, that it's important to understand not just the building, but what it means in the whole context. And I know that you've been involved in a lot of those things as well.
Right. Well, that's talking about some of the trends going on, is that one of the things that I love this statement, actually, I pulled this off the MIT website, and they seek focused, committed applicants who want to apply their intellectual gifts to the task of building better living and working environments for people around the world. You didn't even mention buildings. I mean, you're building a better working and living environment, and we're seeing all of these converge right now. So that it's something that I talked to some of your students, and they were coming in as architects, but they wanted to learn the other side so then they can build the projects they want to live in. Are you seeing a lot of that? And maybe you can tell us about some of the exciting student projects that have been going on?
Yeah, the students who come in are just remarkable, and I think every year, why don't we just skip the masters and open up a consulting company, because they've just done, they're such rock stars when they get here, but they get a chance to kind of fine tune with the MIT expertise that we have here. So it's a unique place to sit at the intersection of this 150-year-old DNA of MIT, which is entrepreneurship and technology and innovation, and then we overlay urban planning and real estate and all of the things that are in our world that you and I live in. And so the students, in fact, there are even kind of new career tracks that didn't exist when I did the program 10 years ago. This whole world of real estate tech, whether that's tech startups, that could be AI, VR, autonomous mobility, all of the different technologies that have exploded on the scene in the last 36 months or so. We have students now who are coming in and saying, I'm coming here to be to fine tune or maybe pivot in the real estate industry, but oh, by the way, I'm going to do it in technology. That kind of conversation didn't exist a few years ago. That's very new. And
Absolutely
so
not. That's exciting.
that's going on as well at the same time. So we have students who are doing startups. We have a new accelerator here called Design X. So they're putting a team together. They might have a real estate person, a planning person, maybe from the Sloan Business School, maybe somebody from over in what's called CSAIL, which is the School of Artificial Intelligence and Computer Science. They're kind of plucking from around. This collaboration cross campus is really a remarkable, exciting thing that's going on right now.
You know, it's interesting. What you just described is like a microcosm of what's happening in our cities. It's like the synergy of we're seeing these headquarters come back to the cities, and they're coming back because they're chasing the talent, but the talent and the research and the thriving for having a whole community of related resources that can converge together to build something great. It sounds like MIT is creating that in this space that I didn't quite realize as much, you know.
It's certainly, there's a convergence going on. There was always a lot of collaboration. That's in MIT's DNA, but there is a tremendous convergence going on here on the academic side. But I think it reflects what's going on in our industry on the day-to-day side, where there's a convergence between working, living, and playing. The technology that's kind of enabling that, or maybe is resulting from that. We don't quite know which is coming first. But we know also that clearly we're working differently. The workplace now merges with so many other areas. You and I do business frankly, I do more business outside of this four-wall area I have with my name on it here than I ever thought that I would. And partly it's certainly enabled by the technology, but also a different approach to how we collaborate.
Right, and one of the things that I know we used to have the saying, oh, all real estate is local, but when I walk into your classroom and I meet individuals from all over the world, and I know the research is going on all over the world, one of the neat things I feel is it's bringing all these global viewpoints together to discuss. I mean, we were talking about what was happening with favelas in Brazil, and we were talking about what's happening with smart cities in India, and there's cities in Asia that are so enormous that a Boston could fit in their Central Park. I mean, so I
Right.
mean, there's all these things going on, and it really opens my mind because I tend to get a little local. But that's amazing. You can take these best practices and you can put it to work in a small market. I mean,
Yes.
it's technology. I don't know. Do you think technology kind of boils things down so that you can actually create things on a smaller scale that we used to need enormous scale to build? I don't know why I got on this tangent, but that's how we always talk.
No, no, I think I don't. It's not a tangent. I think it reflects
Mhm.
what the thing I love about this technology inquiry is it impacts what we build, where we build, and how we're going to build it. So, and there are startups and legacy companies in all areas of that food chain, for lack of a better description. So some of them are working on how to better operate. Some of them are working on, well, how do we be better developers? How do we better finance? There are some common threads. Removing friction in the markets. So
Mhm.
it's faster, cheaper, smarter. That's very exciting. It little scary also
Yeah.
because it'll unsettle some of the I love we have a very good friend and alum who comes to all of our events, and he's very successful, has, I don't know, 10 or 15,000 apartment units, very successful
Mhm.
developer, owner, uh, but he also is an angel investor in real estate tech companies. So
Ah,
he loves to say, Steve, I love this technology stuff. It's great. It's faster. It's smarter. It removes the friction. It removes the opacity. He says, but as a developer, I hate all this technology stuff because
right.
that's how I made money. That's how this
Exactly.
industry has operated for so long. So there will be some give and take on how this all moves forward.
Right. You and I have been in the industry a while, but I think this rapid change, like when you mentioned all the stuff that's come on the scene in the last 36 months. I mean, normally in commercial real estate, especially in Boston, we would talk about things that happened in the last 100 years. So now we're down to what's
Right.
happening in the last 36 months. And what are some of the trends that are really sparking your interest in other folks at MIT Center for Real Estate? What are some of the things that we've been discussing amongst yourselves?
Couple of ideas. You've heard us talk about this real estate fracking concept, which is, and this is Professor Dennis Frenchman was the one who termed this phrase. We know that oil fracking is where you pump the water into the ground
Mhm.
and you break up the shale and you bring the unlocked, what was given up as lost before. So if we
Right.
imagine the real estate as the asset, the kind of the use of the asset, what if we could break that up in ways that reconfigure into higher value combinations? And I think co-working is a great example. You have a company like WeWork, which is one of many, but the biggest.
Mhm.
They lease at 1x and they turn around and sell back to their users at 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, sometimes
Right.
6x. So they are unlocking value that was kind of overlooked before. And there are a whole bunch of examples. It just happens to be that the co-working example is a good one,
Right.
but there are
Well,
a whole bunch of other
yeah.
versions of that. So
Well, they're
I
a
think
real
that's
estate company that doesn't own real estate. I mean, they're starting to own real estate, but
yeah,
for a while there, they were a real estate company that didn't own real estate. You know, just like
yeah,
Airbnb was a hospitality company without hotels. So that is
exactly. And
really okay. I really
there's
get. You've said the fracking thing before, but you said it so well
yeah,
right now that it really I could do that. I could see the visual. That's really
it's a great way to visualize it. So Airbnb, same thing. They're taking these rooms that people have had in their houses. This was the original model.
okay.
Rooms that an empty room I have in my house that isn't worth anything to anybody. Oh, but wait a minute, it is worth something to somebody. And
Right.
so the technology allows me to monetize that. Uber is the same way. And
Hmm.
Zipcar proved this. Zipcar really
Early.
was earlier, but
Yes.
they proved that our cars have about a 5% utilization rate. But if you book it out by the hour, you can bump that up to 80 or 90%. That's what Zipcar, that's what
Right.
their research showed. One car per 10 users. What happens if what'll happen in real estate if we find out we can optimize the real estate by a factor of one or two or three or even 10? I don't think it'll go that high.
Right.
So
Well, I've seen like restaurants that are renting out during the day meeting space because they don't open until
yeah,
night. So I mean, everyone's trying to do
yeah,
this. Hotels and
yeah.
existing condos. I mean, yeah, it's
There
kind
are
of
different.
interesting.
It's been done with empty cubicles in offices, empty
Hmm.
pallet space in warehouses. empty conference rooms, liquid space, empty a company called Storefront doing it, pop-up stores in empty retail, which is really relevant now because there's so much empty retail. So that fracking concept is one of them. I went kind of into that one pretty a little deeper, but I think it's worth mentioning this idea of reconfiguring the asset and using it in ways we never considered before.
Right.
So that's one. I think artificial intelligence and machine learning, that we're just starting to see that show up in startups. That's very exciting. It's not just the artificial intelligence, it's the machine learning part where the algorithms are starting to adjust and correct as they uncover patterns in data.
Right. No, and that goes beyond just the cars. We're talking about buildings and everything in our environment.
Yes.
We're going to be seeing this.
Yes.
Energy, being able to bottle the energy and adjust.
Yeah, so another big picture concept here is really fully autonomous buildings. So will they someday? There's already technology here at MIT and elsewhere where they actually build themselves. There are robots that build that build buildings. So do we see a future? Maybe even in our lifetime, do we see a future of buildings that build themselves and then operate themselves? Maybe.
Maybe, but see,
Maybe.
this is why, on that note, this is why we have to come to MIT, because these things don't sound crazy when you walk around that campus and see some of the different things. And that's where that synergy works out. And I have to say, I've been a longtime fan of MIT for Center Real Estate. I know some very top brokers who have gone through the program, and they became very top brokers because of that. So I'm very excited to have you. And is there anything else we need to know about MIT Center for Real Estate that we can share with our nationwide audience?
Well, we're always available. We have an open door policy if anybody has any questions, no matter how far out they seem, because it probably isn't much further out than buildings that build themselves and run themselves. So if anybody has any ideas or questions, I'm always available for follow-up. They can either contact you or they can contact me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I've been to the campus. I've met the students. It's so exciting. And if you want to see the new stuff that's going to come out of there is going to change all of our lives, whether we're in commercial real estate or not. But we're going to be talking more with Steve and probably some of his students and alumni. I think we actually had an alumnus of yours. Actually, it was MIT Planning School, but it was actually, yes, we did have an alumni from MIT already speaking on one of our webinars. So this has been a pleasure, and of course now my brain is going about all these new trends, and we're going to have you back again, because that was really terrific. So
we'll do a part 2 and a part 3 if you like.
We have lots to cover. Yes,
we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Diane.
All right, well, Steve, thanks for joining us again. This is Diane Danielson with SVN International Corp, and this was another episode of SVN Outreach, and we'll be back soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.